Welcome back to Kirkley's Guitar School. Today I'm going to break down Stuck in the Middle with You by Steelers Wheel. I put a vote out to our Facebook community and on the YouTube community tab, and this is what you came back with. Those of you that voted for Smoke on the Water, I'll put it in the pipeline at some point. It will come out at some point. So, a couple of caveats before we go into today's lesson. This is the original version, Steelers Wheel's version of it, is the guitar. It's played on a 12-string guitar, and the guitar's tuned to D standard. I think there's some sort of funky tuning going on. I was presented with a bit of a conundrum as to, if I teach you how to play it in standard tuning, more people will get more for it. So this is aimed kind of at those people. Also, a lot of the lead guitar was done with a slide, and I just couldn't seem to get it sounding at its best. So we'll talk about the solo section and what I do. My whole approach to this song has been, when I play this in bands, this is what I play, and I'll show you about the solo section, what I do about it when we get there. There's a full PDF that you can download from the first link in the description. That'll take you to our private Facebook group. Every tab that I've ever done for every lesson here on YouTube, you can download there for free. Don't want anything from you. If Facebook's not your thing, head to the second link in the description and join our email list. You'll get a weekly email with all the tabs attached. I'm currently working on a bit of an archive as well, which I'll link in due course. So, here are the chords that we're working on for today's class. We've got a D chord, a G, a C, and an A major. So quite clearly in the key of D. And we've got this kind of interesting kind of descending So let's break that down. Now, I've got the feeling that if I was tuned to the correct tuning on the 12-string guitar, this would make a little bit more sense, but I think it sounds pretty close. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to play the 7th fret of the G and the B strings, and I'm using my ring finger on the top and pinky on the bottom, and then I'm catching the high E string at the bottom. Now, notice over here how there's a rest here. So what that means is on the first beat of the bar, I'm not going to play anything. I'm actually going to start on the what we call the and of 1. We're going to start just a little bit later than you're expecting. And I'm going to start with an upstroke. And this second dude over here, can you see how it's exactly the same? I've got an upstroke here and a downstroke. Now, we'll just put a pin in it there for a second. Can you see how when this note comes round, when the rest comes round, I still make the downstroke, but I'm not playing anything, and then I catch the strings on the upstroke. That's just a little trick I like to use to keep me in time. I do a downstroke, don't catch anything, and then I do an up and a down with those 7s. Then I'm going to take that shape with the ring finger and the pinky, and I'm going to move it down 2 frets to get this dude here. And I'm doing that with a downstroke. Up, down, down. Then, the reason I've been keeping this shape here is because to move between this note and this note, I'm going to use my index finger on the 3rd fret of the B and then my middle finger on the 4th fret of the G. And I get this sort of... just makes that transition a little bit easier. Pause it here and get that note. I'm doing the 5s with a downstroke and then the 3 and the 4 with an upstroke. There he says. I'm then going to take that shape and move that down 2 frets like we did over here, but just with this new shape, and I'll be on the 1st fret of the B and the 2nd fret of the G. And I'm going to pick that note one more time, but can you see these little, I call them washing lines, this is called a tie. What this means is you're going to strum this chord and you're going to let it ring out just that little bit longer than you're expecting, so much so that it actually bleeds over into the next bar. You don't need to strum this note. You strum this one, ignore that one, and you strum it again here. This chord needs to last for a whole beat, and we've only got half a beat left to play within the bar, so we've got to spill over into this one to account for it. Don't strum this note. If it would make you feel better, download the PDF and get a Sharpie and scribble it out. That's what I normally do in my group classes with students if they're struggling with that kind of stuff. So let me play from the beginning up to this point, not this point, this point, here. Notice how there's a lot of open strings ringing about. That's an upstroke, by the way, if I haven't said already. Down on the 3, up on the 1. Moving into the second bar, all that changes between this note and this note is we take the index finger off the B string. Put it back on, so finger on, finger off, finger on, and then we repeat da 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 again. You know, it's just a group of 3. Pause the video and get that under your fingers for me, please. Now, I know it's not very helpful when you come for a lesson, but that's supposed to be messy and it's part of the charm. Moving on is where the band comes in, and we're going to play a D chord, so the little triangle. And this is the strumming pattern. So we've got a down and an upstroke, and then can you see this funny looking like 7 here? That's called a quaver rest. So what that means is I'm playing the down and the up, and then I've got a little gap, and what I'm doing is I'm using this part of my palm here to touch the strings to stop it from ringing out. Just practice those 3 movements, down and an upstroke, and then we're just gonna stop the strings from ringing. And I'm using sort of that part of my palm. Oh, wrong chord. Moving on, we're going to do an upstroke followed by a mute, upstroke followed by a mute, and then another upstroke. And you get what's called syncopation here. It's playing on what we call the offbeat, and it gives it this sort of like... It gives it this cool kind of rhythm that makes you want to bop your head. So you've got a down and an up, followed by 3 ups, but the crux is getting the mutes in the right places. Watch this hand. Now, one thing that you need to be wary of, once you get to the end here, at the very end of the bar, you're going to want to put another mute in after it, and it's not the case. You've actually go back to this strumming pattern. So you do a down and an up, 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 down, up. Can you see how, if you imagine I copied and pasted this bar across here, immediately after this note you'd have another two notes. Now, I haven't been very helpful when I've transcribed this, have I? I should have put it in for another bar. But when the band come in, you're just literally going to sit on that D chord. Up, down, up, 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 down, up, 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 down, up, up, up. Now that continues into the verse. So from bar 7 of the PDF, we'll talk through the PDF in a second, but when we get to the verse, he starts singing there. I came here tonight, etc. So you're going to do 4 bars of D. You're going to go to G and back to D. And nothing changes strumming wise. The only thing that changes is bar 5 and 6. You're going to go to a G chord instead of a D chord. And the remainder of that verse, you do an A chord, followed by a C and a G and 2 bars of D. Now this C and G over here, all I want you to do here is do 2 downstrokes. And then back to the strumming pattern. That's Clown. What is it? Clown's to the left of me, Joker's to the right. Here I am. It's that part. Let me slow that down and play that. I've had to, because of the way that it's arranged on the PDF, I've kind of had to put it into 2 slides annoyingly, which is hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? So you've got D, 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 last bar of D, to G, back to 2 bars of D, we then go to A, C, G, D. And can you see over here we've got a repeat marker over here, so what that means is you go back to the beginning of the verse and you play it all again. So that's kind of the, you know, the bit from Reservoir Dogs where he's dancing in front of that dude before he cuts his ear off. That's that bit. Now, moving on for that, you got the started out with nothing and you're proud that you're a self-made man. That bit, which I'm calling the mid-section, because it's not really a chorus, is it? But it's kind of a very prominent B section. Now, I'm going to change the strumming pattern for this, because when I play this in bands, I find changing, it almost kind of has a little bit more of a kind of swing, shuffly kind of feel, but not really. The timbre of the song changes, and I've changed the strumming pattern to account for that, which is what looks like this. Now it's down, up, down, up, down, up, down, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now if you just play that with a G chord, it'll sound pretty bland. What I've done to counteract that, and what I do when I'm playing things like this, can you see in the 3rd note, can you see that little like sort of arrow that's above it? That's called an accent. And what that means is I'm going to strum that note a little bit harder than the others to create a bit of texture. So that lands on beat 2. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Can you see how it does that on beat 4 as well? Now, what I'm mimicking there is I'm mimicking the snare drum of a drum kit. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. And it just kind of gives it a little bit of a bounce. 1, 2, 3. Put that on the screen so you can see it. Now there's 2 angles you can approach this from. You can either play normally and hit that note harder, or you can try and be quieter in the notes that are accented. It depends what kind of player you are. I tend to hit it a little bit harder, but I am quite a heavy-handed player. I'm not afraid of giving it some stick. If you're the other way around, it's the end result that matters. I don't care how you get there, as long as you get there. And in those kind of lesser strokes that are the accents, I'm kind of focusing on the lower sort of 4 strings of the guitar. And it gives it that really nice to D, to G, you see how it finishes with a D and an A, and that D chord on the bottom line with the washing line going between it, you're going to play that D chord and you're going to hold it for 8 beats. You remember how I said earlier how that note spilled over into the next bar? This D chord you're going to hold for 2 whole bars. You don't need to strum it again, so that's the please, please, it's that bit. Now, I feel like the band are really giving it some here, and I think you want to try and channel a little bit of that when you're playing along with the record. So let me play that whole section. Nothing and you're proud that you're a self-made man. That's D to G, and your friends they all come crawling, slap you on the back and say please, and then you hit the A. Now, okay, let's talk about the structure, because it's literally those 2 bits back, sort of going backwards and forwards, and we'll talk about the solo as well. So make sure you get the PDF. It's well worth your time, won't cost you anything, and these lessons work a lot better. And I'm sort of assuming that you're sort of working along with them. You get chord charts and everything as well. It's well worth your time. So we start with the intro that we talked about, which is this bit. The band then come in with that strumming pattern over a D chord for 4 bars, and then we go into a verse. I don't know where I came here tonight. You're going to repeat that section twice and then go into the midsection. Started out with nothing and you found that you're a self-made man. At that point we've completed kind of both sections. We go back to an intro, which can either be, it's top of page 2, you can either vamp on that D chord like we've done before and like the sheet tells you to do, or you can play that intro riff again. That's what I tend to do if I'm the only guitar player on the gig. We then do another verse twice. We do another midsection. Now on that second verse, the first time round it's a verse, and the second time round it's the solo. Now the solo is done on a slide on what I'm guessing is another guitar tune to an open tune in the whatever it is. I kind of get that sort of cliff notes. I'm thinking D major pentatonic, position 1. And I'm basing it all around the D major arpeggio. Now, what I do there is, because it's quite, I feel like it's a waste of your energy. If you try to sort of wrap your fingers around this guitar thing, learning that slide bit, you'll probably spend a fortnight working on it and then never use it again. From experience of teaching people. What I do there is, if you're confident and you took part in the improvising challenge that we did a couple of months ago, play some D major pentatonic, or you could play B minor pentatonic over it. It'd sound really good, and just kind of use that as a placeholder. I think the real learning in this song is that bit and the strumming pattern, the syncopation. The lead stuff's kind of secondary in my opinion, and to be honest, like, I can play a slide, but I'm not the guy for that, so I tend to just do some improvising over that. After you've done the solo, we'll go into the midsection and then into the intro. Onto top of page 3 now, we go into a verse and then into the ending. Now the ending, after you've done the clowns to the left and me jokers to the right, you'll be presented with this section, the ending at the bottom of page 3. And you're going to carry on with that. You're going to carry on with that pattern, but you're going to play it for 6 bars. And on the 7th bar, can you see at the very bottom right of this page, there's 2 D chords, one on beat 1 and one on beat 2. And the way that it finishes, instead of just doing one stab on the D and it finishing, it actually just hits it twice. Let me play that for you. Second line. And you hear those sort of 2 short, sharp stabs is how they opt to finish it. So, what did you make of that? Let me know in the Facebook group. It'd be really cool if some of you posted it. I'll see you next week for another acoustic guitar lesson. Thank you so much.